This evening's regular council meeting of July 16th, 2013. Call to order the council meeting at 6:34. If you would stand with me, Kendall Stuckey is going to lead us in invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this time this evening as this council and this community comes together, Lord. Bless us in any decisions that are made tonight. Guide us and protect the city and continue to bless Lowell, Lord. We thank you for your blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, perform the roll call, please.
Thomas Evers,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Here.
Matthew Yeager,
Here.
Jeanette Lassiter,
Here.
Keith Williams, Kendall Stuckey,
Here.
Dean Bittner,
Here.
Ronnie Breland.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. That brings us to consent agenda items. While you're reviewing those, please check if your microphone's on, pulled towards you so we have a good recording, please. As you review the minutes and financial statement, I might make one comment, is that it's really a spectacular way our sales tax has begun to climb this year, and hopefully at the end of the third quarter, we'll have a better picture of what the 2014 proposed budget will allow. If there's no questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Eric, a second by Kendall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Like sign, nay. It's been approved. That brings us to our time of public forum. Hopefully everyone has signed in that would like to speak tonight. Bob Perry, I have your name here. Would you like to speak now?
I would like to speak during the
Item one, okay. Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
could I take this opportunity to introduce my brother, who's visiting here from England?
Please do so.
My brother Lloyd Lyles is in the back there, and he came here for our mother's 90th birthday celebration last week, and he goes home in a couple of days, so we'll be over it. But please, if you have a chance, welcome him. And this is not the England here in Arkansas. This is the England across the pond,
That large pond.
the large pond, yes.
Thank you. Welcome to our council meeting tonight. So that time of public forum, we open that at 6:37 and close at 6:38.
Okay.
There being no old business, that brings us directly into new business. We have a resolution to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire 5 easements in order to facilitate the development and construction of the Razorback Green Ray Trail. So we'll open that to council for discussion. Hopefully you've had a chance to review some of these plats and the offerings on them, and feel free to ask any questions you might like to do.
I had a question.
Matt?
So obviously the offers were made several months back, and these were the offers that weren't accepted. I'm just curious if there was feedback as far as why the offers weren't accepted. Is it the amount, or is it the fact that they simply don't want to sell these properties to us?
Chris Sullivan, would you like to address that, please?
I'm thinking about, I'm thinking if I could actually respond to that. I would like, is it because of the money, or is it because they don't want to sell the property?
Chris, what's the gentleman's name that's been carrying on these negotiations again? Please remind me.
Dennis Blind.
Dennis Blind,
And
with
he
Alta.
unfortunately couldn't be here tonight.
That is correct.
And you'd almost have to either ask the property owner or him.
Correct.
Know that Chris has been involved, but
I have,
Well, there's 5 properties
from the
involved,
beginning.
right? Is he speaking for all 5?
he,
He has tried, let me address Matt just a moment. He has addressed all these landowners several times with their concerns, and he is going to be the most familiar with why these settlements have not occurred already. I would say, in my estimation, most of them have probably been because there's a dispute of just compensation. Of course, that's what you always get into with any eminent domain declaration, is what is true and accurate just compensation. Let me also state that we used Reed and Associates as appraisers, which come highly respected and set a standard of fair and accurate appraisals across the region. And so we know that we have a professional appraisal on this. So I would tend to reply to your question, Matt, in the sense that it is probably more than likely the argument of just compensation than it is the property itself, because what we have found is that I don't believe I've found anyone that opposes the Greenway, or that.
No. And Matt, I can tell you that the 3 property owners I have spoken to, it does have to do with the compensation. I can't speak for all
Mayor.
of them.
Yes, sir.
Can we go through these parcels one at a time, start with tract 354, and if there's a representative here to speak on that one, then let's hear from them, and can we do it that way?
Well, why don't we?
We have one property owner here, and that's
Yeah,
all.
since we're going to do it one by one, and Mr. Perry has already asked to speak at public forum on item I, let's go ahead and allow him to do that now.
Okay.
Bob, if you'd like to come, state your name and address. You've got their full attention for 2 minutes here.
Which parcel will this be?
This parcel is actually the, three five three.
353? That's not in order.
Not the first one in your book.
Okay,
No, it's
my name is Bob Perry, and I live at 8699 South Tilly's Hill Road in Decatur, Arkansas, but we own property on South Gold Springs Road. Okay?
353.
The only thing, I only have 2 questions about this proceeding. Whenever you acquire the property with an easement rather than purchasing the property outright, it's my understanding there is like 3 levels of restrictions to property owners on these easements. Negligible restrictions, variable restrictions, or exclusive restrictions. So my question to y'all tonight is, which one do y'all plan on using?
I'm going to allow the city attorney to address that.
Sir, I'm not familiar with that nomenclature.
Okay,
But I will describe the use. It'll be exclusive. In other words, the easement will be occupied by a trail, and that because it'll have a trail on it, it will mean that the adjoining property owner, really the fee property owner, you, won't be able to put something else on that which would interfere with the use of a trail. So for that reason, it's exclusive. Now, I don't mean exclusive just for one person, because it'll be used by the public on the trail. But it would mean that while it was used as a trail, until that easement's abandoned in the future someday, you would be prohibited from using it for something else.
right.
That's, I think, does that answer the question, sir?
Yes, it did, because my definition of an exclusive restriction was the exclusion of property owner use. So basically, that's what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My next question is, since we are actually, let's say that this goes through and y'all get the land through an easement, what liabilities as a property owner do we have? In other words, if someone is injured on that trail, do I have that liability like I do if they were injured on my property?
Okay. Well, I want you to take my answer knowing that I represent the city of Lowell and not you, okay? And so what I should tell you is you need to ask your lawyer and your insurance agent about that. But if I do that, you're going to wave your head at me and say, well, there's a lawyer answer for you. So I think the mayor would look at me and say, well, why don't you tell him what you think, Tom? And so I will. And that is that as long as you didn't alter that trail in some way that made it unreasonably dangerous, there's no liability to the adjoining property owner if someone hurts themselves on that trail. The liability is going to be non-existent because the trail is going to be operated for the benefit of the public, and so it's probably going to have the status of tort immunity.
Okay.
That is my anticipation.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
again, I'm going to urge you to ask your own insurance agent and your own lawyer. I'm not going to tell you that your liability purposes might, with regard to your home, be different because there'll be people walking up and down. Well, of course, I know your home isn't there, but
Right.
to that property.
Okay.
Okay?
And the only other question I have, I was only going to ask two, but one come to mind. Since I still will be responsible for the taxes on that parcel when you do an easement, is there any way that I can get that subtracted from my taxes? My taxes on that piece of property is extremely high. It's not as high as the Parker Properties parcel, but it is extremely high.
So we know that when you have an issue about that, of course, you access the equalization board
Right.
in the county. So I'm afraid I don't have enough experience with equalization boards to know if they take that into account. It's a square footage situation, right? You could no
Right.
longer use.
It's like 0.39 acres.
Right, and so that's, you take the tract, and now you know that you can't use the .39 acres for commercial use, and so you'd like to put that in front of the equalization board. I anticipate they can take that into account. You know, in other words, they've assessed a value, and now the land doesn't have that value because there's not that much land. And so when you get assessed, I would expect that you would take that to the equalization board.
Okay.
I don't know of any mechanism that the city has to change your tax liability.
Okay.
Bob, let me add to that. I think both the Trailway folks, Alta, and I know the city would support that with a written letter, you know, that is being removed from your usage. So that might help carry a little weight with the equalization board.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, so.
Mr. Perry, assuming your questions are answered, is it safe to assume that you don't have any problem with using the property from this point forward? I guess my question to you, is there going to be any dispute from this point forward, or are you satisfied with the dollar amount? And
Well, the last dollar amount I heard was about half enough.
was about, I'm sorry,
Half.
of what you think it's worth, or the
Yes.
appraisal? or-
Well, it's what I know it's worth.
Okay.
Because the state just purchased 1.14 acres from us. In their appraisal, they paid us $105,000 an acre. This is adjoining property. So the appraisal from you guys was like 50,000. So it's about half of what it's actually valued at.
Okay.
So with this being an easement, I mean, normally with easements, the property owner still ends up maintaining it, correct? So,
No, this will be maintained by the,
okay, so
By
this
the
would be
green-
differing
yeah,
than other easements.
Very different.
we have an O&M agreement that we all researched. What was that, 2 years ago, Chris? Or was that last year? It was last year. Yeah, operating and maintenance agreement, and we critiqued that and changed that to where it wasn't going to be a terrible financial burden on the city, but obviously there's some things that we are obligated to participate as a partner in the Greenway. And so what that document basically does is decide who and how and what bank account that's coming out of. And so that has been settled. And these properties where the route will take place will be maintained by city employees. So,
I know-
yes, Thomas?
And maybe Tom could answer it. It's kind of a follow-up to Dean's question. Mr. Perry said that, that the highway department had bought some land for you previously. Could there possibly be a difference in the cost or the valuation of right-of-way easements opposed to actually full-out purchasing it?
Yeah, certainly, but there's also other things that these appraisers look at, such as zoning issues and proximity to other businesses and residences and all types of things. That's why it takes a professional appraiser to look at these properties.
Can I address that also,
Yeah,
Mr.
yes,
Mayor?
Bob.
Okay, that's why I was asking this exclusive restrictions, because whenever they go to appraise these properties, if they use the exclusive restrictions, what the percentage of the actual market value is, you have to pay 90 to 100% plus. And what the plus is damages. Because you're going to exclude my use, and you are going to substantially change the highest use of the land, and it is being severed from a larger parcel. So I will be asking for damages. So in reality, you'll pay anywhere from 90 to 100% of what the actual value is, plus the damages that we may be awarded.
Mr. Perry, what do you believe this parcel is worth? Just,
It's worth $105,000 an acre, and there's 0.39 acres of it. I don't have a number right in my head, but
so roughly $41,000 is what
yes,
you believe it's
yes.
worth?
But it's going to cost the city more than that if they do the easement. They could have bought the property outright for that, but we're going to ask for damages on this
Okay,
easement thing.
yeah, let's leave that aside.
Okay.
All right, and maybe I'm entering into a path here I'm not even, I don't know.
We cannot get another appraisal at this
Yeah,
point.
you are.
Dean, so-
Okay.
Well, and.
But you know what, Dean, it's gonna, this gentleman has the state constitutional right to have a jury determine the value of his land.
Sure, and you know,
He just absolutely has that right, and so we respect that, and unfortunately, that's the route we have to go.
Well, regarding the actual finances, though,
Pardon?
am I correct that the finances for these easements and the properties that are being purchased are actually coming not directly?
Speak a little clearer in the
we was gonna wait
microphone,
and see
Matt,
what-
everybody can hear.
The finances,
hold on, Matt. Chris, I'm sorry.
Point it.
We could hear him when Matt,
Okay.
sorry.
so
Is that everything?
Yeah, if you don't have any other questions, I ask you to, okay,
Might
please
be
be
more later.
seated then, Bob.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
the finances for the properties being purchased and things like that, as I recall, the there's actually a separate fund that the city gets reimbursed from as the properties are acquired for the trail. Is that not correct?
That's correct. So this, whatever the settlements might be between now and a court date, if someone were to take this to court, would not come out of the city's coffer, it would come out of the Greenway's coffer. Am I correct on that, Chris? I think you've got something in writing. Why don't you state that exactly the way the answer came from Dennis Blind today? And we apologize that he could not be here tonight, but he had a wedding he overlooked that he had to be at.
One son, I think.
You wanted me to, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
state his answers. He gave it to us on that.
on the overages of the appraisals?
Yes, please.
I asked the question, if a value over the appraisal is awarded, then who pays the difference? And his answer was, the Razorback budget will pay any overages, not the city.
So the purpose tonight is for us, if we move forward with this, is so we can begin the process of the breaking the ground ceremonies, essentially of the trail through Lowell, correct?
Yes,
We will
sir.
begin the initiation, yeah, we will begin the process.
And these are the last ones holding us up from
Yes.
moving?
That's
Well,
correct.
We're not the only one, as I recall, having this issue
Oh,
though,
no.
either.
No, I think-
And I know personally, I despise eminent domain. Absolutely despise forcibly taking someone's property. You give them money, but you're taking their property, and I just despise it.
We hate that too. Just so you
Well,
know,
and that-
we hate that
But
too.
it sounds like to me if there was, and I don't know how the appraisals are, why they're so variants from the state versus this one, but I'm sure that will be all worked out in due time. And so, I mean, we have to move forward as a city. We can't, come Springdale, hit Lowell, and then go continue from Roger, everyone just jump around Lowell. I mean, we don't want to have a choice.
But are you gonna, deprive someone of their constitutional right to their land and property as well, though?
Just to be clear,
I mean-
I'm sorry, but I have to be careful there. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, you want to glance right back at that flag, okay? It's very clear. You can't take someone's property unless you compensate them for it.
Right.
Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you can't take someone's property. It says the government shall not without compensating them. So we need to be clear about when we're talking about the constitutional right of people not to have their property taken. No, the constitutional right is to have it taken only if you're compensated. And so what the gentleman who just addressed us is doing is, he is enforcing that constitutional right.
Right.
He is saying, I don't feel that's just compensation, and we say, okay, then we have to go to the next step of the process,
Noted.
which unfortunately is litigation and has lately gotten a terrible reputation, but is as American
Right. I know
as anything else the
eminent
Constitution.
domain's been used since the beginning of the country, but it's just me. I personally don't like the practice of kind of more or less forcing someone's hand, I guess you could say.
Well-
Forcing them to an sale versus
And,
capitalist approach of giving them
May I say
that amount of
something?
money.
Excuse me.
We actually don't have another choice at this point. We can't offer anything more than what these appraisals are. We can't offer anything more than what these appraisals are, and that's what is offered on each of these.
And we've already voted to participate in the Greenway system.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Dean, you had a comment?
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it seems silly to me to fight about it. I'm sure that due diligence has been done and the appraisals have been made, and, unfortunately, you're right, Tom. That's what we have to do. We have to find a mediator, if you will, to settle the disagreement, and that's unfortunate, Mr. Perry, for you, that you'll have to hire an attorney and move forward, and it's unfortunate for the city that we'll have to employ Mr. Kicklack and move forward, but that's where we are, and I don't see holding this thing up, the entire Greenway through our city, because of 5 property owners and a dispute on the value of the acreage, and
And that's simply what it is. I didn't hear Mr. Perry say he didn't want to sell, he just wanted to be justly compensated.
right, and I think that Mr. Kicklack is right, that we let him move forward. With that said, is a motion in order, Mayor?
Well, before I make that motion, Matt, I share your feeling
I figured it'd be personal for you, right?
eminent domain, and being a subject of that with HTD a few years ago, I've been through the entire process, and though there were times of passion and emotion and all of that, it finally came down to the fact of what does the law state and what was my rights, and I chose not to settle. And I settled somewhere between the process being initiated and before it went to the court. Now, I don't know if the Greenway folks will have any latitude in that. I'm told they probably will not because of the way this particular project has been situated. But I can tell you that eminent domain is not a bad thing in the sense of it does allow the individual as a landowner to take proper recourse. And at some point, there's a point of agreement made, or at least someone at the county court level with a jury can decide whether it was an unfair taking. It all comes down to two words: what is just compensation? So the Perrys will more likely get an appraisal themselves. They may already have one, and go to court jury and be decided at that point. If they're awarded X number of dollars, in addition to this, it will not come out of the city's coffer. But if we do not do our diligence, then we are in danger of slowing down the process and the deadlines we're trying to make this Greenway a possibility for our community. So, yes, Ronnie.
Mayor, I see that some of this is on one side of the road, but where is this in conjunction with the other properties that we already have for the Greenway project?
Why don't we just take these one by one as suggested, and we'll discuss the location of them so that we're familiarized with them a little better. I believe the first one is,
I know, I mean, with all of them coming in together.
Chris, I'd ask you to come back to the microphone, please, in case there's individual specific questions regarding any of these
Yeah, I
routes that we
apologize, there's
have.
not a map of the entire, I didn't include that.
Here we have the first one overhead on the screen, and this is going to be track number 354. Chris, would you point out to them exactly where that is in relationship to the property across the street? I believe that was your question, wasn't it, Ronnie?
No,
Okay.
no, sir.
I thought you'd want to know where these properties were in relation to the other property owners. Did I
No, sir.
misunderstand you?
Patrick, can you take me to the GIS on Goat Springs Road? Would that be, could you pull that up for me?
My question, Mayor, was in conjunction with like where it's coming in, like with the Rogers and everything.
Yeah, that's what he's doing,
Like the-
Ronnie.
Yeah, this will show us exactly. This comes in basically at Mills Lane, there at the
Okay.
intersection
Yeah,
to the north.
I know where it's at.
Okay?
Okay.
And if you go on to the most southern extreme, there where the overpass is at on Gold Springs Road,
Springs, right.
it will tie in there just to the south
Okay.
of that bridge to Springdale. So
Right, I know where
our connection point with Springdale is basically there at Apple Blossom and Gold Springs. And to the north, our intersection with Rogers is there at Mills Lane.
All right, I know what you're talking about now.
Gold
That-
Springs.
That's what I need
Okay.
to know. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Ronnie. But let's go ahead and review these real quickly. And so we got track number 354, which,
Yeah, if we could start south at Burrell, we'll start with the Perry's property first, and if...
yeah, you want to go backwards as they're in the book then?
I was going to start south and go north, because
Okay.
those are the smaller numbers, and
Do
that's,
that.
I know that Patrick's trying to bring it up, but if we're at the overpass, we'll come in from Springdale going north,
So this will be track 353. correct?
353.
I'll let you handle it from here, Chris.
And if we're on Goat Springs Road, traveling north, just past Burrell, there to your left. Put your cursor, yeah, put your cursor here.
Chris, can I point out our property?
Yeah, it's right up here.
Straight up where your PM is at?
Right here.
No, the bigger 60.
Big, they're right there, that's it.
This is parcel 353. And this is our first one that we're looking at. And this is where this is the first right-of-way we're looking at, right here. Now, if you'll,
This is from the south?
this is south going north. So this is Mr. Perry's property right here. This is the first one that we're looking at.
So the trail's gonna be on the west side of Goat Springs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So if you'll bring it down, Patrick.
It's gonna be on the west side, it's showing on the east.
Got my numbers, I'm sorry.
It's on the west side.
That's north, that's showing on the east. Showing north.
You bring your, put the screen down, Patrick. Down. And just FYI for you.
West side goes.
Coming down.
Need a mouse.
I do. It's driving me crazy. And just FYI, we are working with a chapel. This property.
Teasing you.
Patrick, don't make me come back there. Come on. You can't hear me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Take the microphone. Chris, help me get the microphone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dawn.
Don't make her
I'm being
come hurt
scolded by Dawn. I should know this. I'm an MC, right, folks? Okay. Put your cursor here, please, Patrick. This is Monroe Looney property. This is the chapel. We will have this property here will be finished negotiations, and this is where Lowell's trailhead will be for our trail. Just so you guys know.
So where do we jump the road on Goat Springs to get back on the east side?
Right.
Right here at the road.
Once we get all the way down, then we jump over.
At the bridge, the
At the
one-lane bridge
bridge.
just before it?
Now, the next parcel is not until we get to the dirt farm, so come on down. Patrick, please, head north, all the way to Highway 264. This is our next parcel, and it's, as everyone can guess, the most expensive one of the entire 36-mile trail.
That's the Parker.
That's the Parker Properties, also known as the Dirt Farm, still in negotiations. And that is track number 362. And if, continue north, please. The next property is right. I'm sorry, one more. One more, up, one more. That one. Track number 405, Mr. Chadwick. This one is also in negotiation.
All the others
Have all been finalized.
are finalized.
Yes, ma'am. .498 Miller Family Trust. Where's that one at, Mayor?
Excuse me?
Miller.
That's the one across the road just before you cross, just before you get to Lenny's.
Oh, back, I passed it.
Yeah, you passed it.
Okay,
Can you,
don't send him back.
don't send him back?
No.
Okay.
It's a small
If
one.
you're familiar with,
Those are the big properties. Those are the four that we're still,
Someone had asked the question where it actually crosses Gold Springs Road when you're headed north there. There was Sycamore Trace. Is that, it kind of goes across there diagonally. They're actually building a pool there right now in one of the houses there, and the loonies are right across. It crosses right at the top of that hill. It shifts from the west side of the road to the east side of the road, right there.
Thank you, Patrick.
No.
Are we, just out of curiosity, where it crosses Gold Springs, are there gonna be any type of flashing lights or any type of crosswalk? I mean, how's that being addressed?
That's all been in design for about
By-
2 years. And
okay.
we had multiple meetings on that about widening and closing. And if you want the details of that, Kendall, I'd ask you to get in touch with Chris sometime through the week, and she's actually got the plans for each section of it
Okay.
in detail. Best I remember, we got away from the flashing lights and closing a lane down on that section.
I think you're asking about Highway 264.
No, I was actually asking about Gold Springs because there's kind of a
There's a
hill
one-lane
there,
bridge.
and I
Oh,
know
I'm
we've
sorry.
been,
Okay.
the police have been kind of keeping tabs over there a little bit, maybe trying to keep some speed down. And
Yeah.
it's easy for people cutting through JB Hunt or whatever they're doing, cruising down that road a little quicker than 25 or 30. So I could see that being a potential, I don't know. We can talk later. I'd be interested to know.
Yeah,
what
I'll show,
off
yeah,
record.
anybody that wants to see any part of the trail, I have the plans in my office.
Chris,
Anybody out here too?
I had a
Ron, would you like
question.
to ask a question?
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned the chapel and everything, this wedding chapel, and it's on the west side, or on the east side, excuse me, or if you're going down and the clay mound, well, in between there's a cemetery. How are you gonna handle all of that?
The cemetery is not being affected, and the chapel donated their right-of-way.
Okay,
The trail's not going through the cemetery.
no, what about the edge of it because of the easement?
Yeah, it's not affecting the cemetery.
No, we're going completely around it to the east.
So you'll cross
On
to
the
the
east
east
side,
side,
east
Right.
side of
going
it.
up. Okay, so you'll go in front of Harvest.
Yeah, there's a
No,
detailed engineer.
East side of the property at the cemetery is what she's saying.
Yeah.
it's going, yeah,
Bonnie, we
along
have detailed
540.
engineering on each section of this, and it's in place, and all those things have
Yeah, I
been
brought the
regarded to
plans to
their
you guys not very long ago, right?
importance.
Showed you the plans not very long ago,
Yeah, we just approved that plan.
right?
So if it goes to the east.
There was a lot of consideration also given to those trees in that area.
First quarter right now.
Right, some of them some nice old trees, I suppose.
Or, are there any others that you would like to look at here other than the summary that, or any other questions other than the summary that Chris Sullivan has brought to us on these?
What's driving, I guess, the desire for condemnation versus, I guess, I don't know if they're called the Razorback Greenway Commission or whoever, the entity running this project. What's driving the condemnation proceeding versus them
what-
coming back with higher offers?
So what's driving it is a deadline that if we don't have the construction started of actually receiving the federal aid and funding that's promised to this project. So it's now a time-sensitive issue.
Well, also, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't, we are stuck to what the appraisal value says. We cannot, I mean, isn't, right, Tom?
That's what's been indicated to us, is that they've offered everything that they are allowed to offer.
We are not allowed to offer anything more than the appraised value.
Right, we aren't, but
Based upon their funding sources.
Highway Department, the foundation.
There's at least two major funding sources, right? There's the highway, there's maybe a combination of state and federal money, but also private foundation money. And with that funding came certain restrictions on how they're going to negotiate these. And so the agent they've hired, the gentleman
Reed and
w-
Associates.
works for the company
Dennis.
Alta works for Reed, Mayor.
Dennis Blind works
Dennis
for
Blind
Alta,
works.
and so does Chuck Flink, so.
And they have restrictions, they have basically a set of rules they have to go by, and they've offered the maximum that they're permitted to offer under those rules.
And so, once it goes to a litigation standpoint where they have to find damages, it's gonna be a fight for the same money, effectively.
No, this is,
mean-
this is,
I mean, this is set, but as far as if
Punitive
they
damage.
have a pool of money that they have to work with, they're gonna have to pay damages for it, or, wait for a jury to rule that the
Right.
damages are awarded,
Yeah.
or they're gonna pay it up front right now and avoid the condemnation process completely. And to me, it just seemed, I would rather them find that money now than go through court and force someone to sell that easement.
That's not
We
our
would
choice.
rather do that as well,
We
but
would
like
rather
we're
do that
saying
too.
is, out of
It
our
is our
hands.
choice
No.
What do you
to
know?
vote, to or not to vote for this condemnation, though. We have the right to represent people and to vote against it.
I would really precaution us as being the city that holds up such a project of regional significance,
We would be,
support
we would be having
that we
liability
have had from
ourselves
these
then.
foundations to help us with this, so.
Tom?
There
would
is
we
a
be having
process in place to be able to
liability
address
if
this.
we,
One at a
Well, I
time.
don't know if there'd be liability.
wouldn't we be in breach of an agreement?
Mayor.
Mayor.
Let me just.
Jeanette has asked Tom Kicklack, our attorney, a
I'm sorry.
question, and
Jeanette,
let him-
I-
allow him a moment to answer.
Would we not be in breach of an agreement? If we don't make this property available?
We are expected, yes, to certainly assist in acquiring the property, and the acquisition process has led to this. Again, I know it sounds extraordinary, but it is simply the property owner being permitted to utilize the state court system to make sure he gets all the money he thinks he deserves for his property. It's really all that's happening here.
Puts it in the proper process to get it done.
Mr. Mayor?
We had a question, I think, first from Dean Bittner. Okay, Ronnie.
When you talk about damages, how do you know what damages you're going to incur for each one of these 5 pieces of property?
We don't have to worry about
You can't
that.
decide that right now because,
You don't decide that at all.
We don't
Yeah.
decide it,
no,
and we're
that's what
not
I'm saying.
liable.
The question was thrown out there about paying for the damages right now. You can't because you don't know what damages would be incurred.
That's precisely why you hire professional
Right,
appraisers
and
that take care of
I
these
have
issues.
another question. On the appraisals, was one done by the city, or was a couple done by the city, and this was,
No, the city has made no evaluation of this property whatsoever.
or they didn't have an
It was
appraisal
ordered by the trail
by the trailhead?
commission, and
Okay,
they were
and that's what they,
performed by the trail commission's hired
okay.
appraiser.
And this is the higher price? Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Condemnation is one of those things that I definitely do not like, because I am a big firm believer in, once I have my property, it's my property, and you can tear it out of my cold, dead hands. But on the flip side, I do remember when you went through the same process, and sitting with you and your family and hearing everything that was going on. And I do understand that we are only allowed to offer X amount. And I do know that one of the greatest reliefs that you had going through this was the fact that you were able to move on and start to go down that next path. Just with that being said, that we know that this is going to happen one way or the other. If this council approves the condemnation or not, that the trail's gonna happen, and we can only offer X amount of dollars, it would keep from dragging this on, and everybody can go to the next step if they do desire to do so. I'm going to make a motion that we approve this.
Second.
We have a motion by Eric Stein and a second by Dean Bittner. Just because of the significance of this, I want to ask the city clerk to read the resolution one more time, please.
Resolution to initiate condemnation proceedings to acquire 5 easements in order to facilitate development and construction of the Razorback Greenway Trail.
Okay,
Would you put down to second it?
Dean Bittner. Any other question or comment? Ready to vote? Roll call, please.
Jeanette Lassiter,
Yes.
Keith Williams, who is not here, Dean Bittner,
Yes.
Matthew Yeager,
No.
Kendall Stuckey,
Yes.
Ronnie Breland,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Thomas Evers.
Yes.
Motion to approve the resolution as presented is approved, and it will be assigned resolution number 13-11. Resolution number 13-11.
Okay. We have, is item number 2 under new business, reappointments of planning commissioners. We'll be looking at James Walker, Lloyd Showalter, James Milner. They're all present tonight. So y'all might kind of migrate over here towards the microphone, and we're going to take y'all individually, okay? First on the agenda is Jim. I'd ask you to come up to the microphone, see if you really want another term of this or not.
Mr. Mayor, how many people throw their name in the hat for this?
Occasionally, we do have people that would want to be considered for this. Planning commissioners learn a lot while they're serving the city in this position. Go ahead and come up to the microphone, Jim. You're first one here. They've all got a question for you, how you've enjoyed the last couple years, so on and so forth. You can be as truthful as you want to be, okay?
Okay.
Do you really want to serve another term?
Yeah, I find it very interesting, and I enjoy working with the city.
Do you feel you add to the commission in a positive way?
Yeah, I think so.
Such a rough question, though, because do you feel that
Tough,
you take away
tough.
from the city in your capacity?
That was kind of, you know.
I had to say.
I'm in the learning stages still. I think everybody is, though.
Sure.
Mr. Walker, what kind of insight and input do you think you can add to the city in the near future?
Do you have some property that we can add to the city?
What did Lassiter ask?
Say that again?
What kind of insight and input do you think you could help the city with in the near future?
Well, I understand pretty much how cities operate and how properties are located, and I understand a lot splitting and civil type of things.
That was kind of an open-ended question there, Ronnie. But you did a good job, Jim.
What about conditional use permits? How do you feel about them? And withdrawal of same?
Conditional use permits are very important. We found that out in the learning stages, too.
How do you feel about them?
How do I feel about them? They're very positive. They need to be in place.
Do we need to specify the conditions when they're
Yes.
issued?
Huh?
When they're issued?
Yes.
You have learned.
Keep asking him questions, he may not want to serve anymore.
That's right.
I'm kind of just being devil's advocate here.
Well, let's close this integration.
I move we reappoint.
Let's entertain a motion
I
to
move
reappoint
that we
James Walker.
reappoint.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeanette, and a second, I believe, by Ronnie Breland. Was I correct down there,
Yes, sir.
Ronnie? Let me say, I really appreciate your willingness to serve on the planning commission, Jim, and you've done a great job acclimating to it.
Well, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Jeanette Lassiter,
Yes.
Dean Bittner,
Yes.
Matthew Yeager, Kendall Stuckey,
Yes.
Ronnie Breland,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Well, I guess since he got me out of detention twice, yes.
Thomas Evers.
Yes.
Motion to reappoint James Walker to the Planning Commission with term expiring June 13, 2016 is approved.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, thanks. I was beginning to feel like I was campaigning.
Yeah,
You were.
but we
you
do
were.
appreciate you. Now, here's the one that we've got a lot of suspicion about.
This one we need to grill.
Yeah, I tell you what, we need to drill
Grill
Mr.
him.
Showalter here. Lloyd, you sure you want another round of this?
That's a second thought.
Can I take the fifth?
Well, I know you,
Oh, sure. I enjoy working with the city, for the city, and with the residents of Lowell. And sometimes it's difficult because it puts you in a bad situation to try to satisfy both. But I think somebody needs to do it, and I have the time, and I know a lot of people that don't have the time because they're too busy trying to make a living. And that's why I'm here.
and one thing I can say I appreciate about you, Lloyd, is you always bring that objectivity in your questions many times, these projects, as they come to the Planning Commission, that you ask many of those questions that sometimes someone else is thinking about, but maybe has not moved on asking that. So I appreciate the objective nature that you bring to the Planning Commission. I really do.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I find the planning commission is one of those places where you need somebody that is very detail-oriented. And I've never seen anybody more detail-oriented than the person that used a ruler to roof their house. With that being said, I would love to make a motion to reappoint Mr. Lloyd Showalter.
Second.
So we have a motion by Eric Shine and a second by Jeanette. Before we vote, I think we had a comment down here on the other end of the,
No, we're good.
okay?
He just beat me to the motion, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Roll call, please.
Matthew Yeager,
Yes.
Kendall Stuckey,
Yes.
Jeanette Lassiter,
Yes.
Dean Bittner,
Yes.
Ronnie Breland,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Thomas Evers.
Yes.
Motion to reappoint Lloyd Showalter to the Planning Commission with term expiring June 13, 2016 is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reappointment of James Milner to the Lowell Planning Commission.
I have a question.
Okay.
So do I.
Was that you setting off all those fireworks around the 4th?
Yes, ma'am, probably.
At my house, by,
Not far
behind my
from your house, yes. Did you enjoy the show?
You still enjoying picking up all the trash in your yard?
Did it keep her up all night?
Not all night, sir. We were done at 10:45.
You need to buy more next time. I'll contribute to that.
I'm working with my group. I had 4 contributors, and we were pushing $1,000, but, we didn't quite
You
get
know,
there.
you have a
So
midnight
next year, we
curfew.
might be able to get over that level. If you'd like to contribute, we're ready.
I would contribute if you make sure it's like at least 3 or 4.
You got a midnight curfew.
Any other question for James or comment?
James?
Sir.
you've
Nothing
served-
fireworks.
You've served on the planning commission for, what, 6 years now?
I believe this will be 7. I was appointed under Mr. Biggers, one of his last acts.
It's been
So I believe it's been 7
This is
years.
7 years.
This will be, they'll obviously be finishing 7 this year.
So this will be 8, 9, and 10.
So,
Tell everybody your profession, please.
I'm a construction coordinator with the University of Arkansas, so I act as the owner's representative on, one of 6 people who act as owner's representatives on major capital projects, and we're the ones that are blocking up all the traffic on the university of campus. We're the ones that are building buildings and making people frustrated so that we can serve the 28,000 students we have coming and growing every day, so.
I wouldn't put that on a campaign ad.
We are the ones responsible for blocking the streets. We try to do most of it in the summer, so when the students get back, it isn't near as bad for them. Parking is an entirely different entity unto its own, and they are one of the few revenue-positive units within the university. I had to pay for my pass too.
on your time on the planning commission, how do you feel about the growth here in Lowell?
Well, in the 7 years I've been here, it's done an awful lot of things. It's been up and it's been down. I feel like, well, I live in Lowell and I love Lowell, and I've enjoyed my time on the most of my time on the commission. There have been some times that it's a tough job. I'm excited about the growth. I think Northwest Arkansas is poised for good, solid growth coming up. I don't relish an opportunity to head straight back into the heyday that we were in right before the crash, because honestly, that's a lot of responsibility to deal with. Planning Commission's a lot of effort involved. The Planning Commission, you need to be thinking about what's going on there. So I don't exactly relish an opportunity to head back to the wild and woolly days, but I feel like there are real good opportunities for Northwest Arkansas, and Lowell is poised. Good spot, good access to the highway, good, a cooperative community that's ready for some growth, and I think we're poised for a beautiful thing coming up.
Well,
I hope so.
I appreciate the experience that you're gaining and contributing to the Planning Commission, James, I really do. Do we have a motion to reappoint?
So moved.
James? Have one by
Second.
Dean Bittner and a second by Ronnie Breland. Roll call, please.
Jeanette Lester,
Yes.
Dean Bittner,
Yes.
Matthew Yeager,
Yes.
Kendall Stuckey,
Yes.
Ronnie Breland,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Thomas Evers.
Yes.
Motion to reappoint James Milner to the Planning Commission with term expiring June 13, 2016 is approved.
Thank you.
Hey, James, I'd like to also thank you for serving on the Board of Adjustments.
Thank you. That brings us to committee reports. Ordinance Committee.
Mayor, we have not met.
Okay.
We'll do so in the month of July, though, so y'all get your ducks in a row. July or August, we'll meet before the next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Selena, you were headed that way.
Sorry.
She has some reports from the Planning Commission for us.
Mayor and council, I just want to tell you thank you for reappointing 3 of the rowdiest and mouthiest commissioners I think I've ever worked with. And I do appreciate it because they're also 3 of a commission that's seated right now that truly has been probably one of the best in some of the most challenging times to work with, and they certainly are dedicated. And I tell you what, as evidenced here tonight, they always show up. And so I am so thankful to be part of that, and thank you for reappointing them.
You're welcome, Selena.
They're going to be behave next time. I did want to just address you just
Now, hold it, does that mean the mayor gives them a lot more latitude in council meetings than you give them in Planning Commission meetings?
I don't know about that.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know. I did want to just update you. At the last meeting, I believe I came before you and asked that we address issues of public notice for public hearing items. And I want to say a huge thank you to the city, because some of you may have already noticed, especially to Chris and Eric, that they've already taken steps to alter our webpage so that on the calendar, on the first of the webpage when you open it up, if there's a public hearing for any of the meetings, yours, Planning Commission, Board of Adjustments, that will show up underneath that agenda item. And then Chris and I also talked about doing a news blip in the next upcoming newsletter, thank you, that just points people to say that's there and that's a change, so that we can maybe publicize that word. And so I do want to say a big thank you. That's already been in place. So we've taken a step forward into the digital age like we talked about before.
I know I really appreciate you leading that, and Chris and Eric both. I thank y'all for doing that.
Okay. And CJ, were you going to talk about your report tonight? Okay. I'm going to just mention what we talked about at the meeting last night. I just wanted to let you know that. The second thing we're going to do, and we're working on, and we've been working on for a couple of meetings now, is, Mr. Stevens' report is in your packet, and I know that y'all have taken a look at that. I feel, and I think the commissioners mostly share my feeling, that we're missing some of those zoning, conditional use kinds of complaints that we don't hear through the usual traditional web, phone, or in the field. But they come before us as part of a planning commission, or it could be as part of one of your meetings. But they come before us, and I have an example. From our June 3rd meeting, we had several people from the community here that addressed the Planning Commission about a variety of things, but in the body of one of those statements, a resident mentioned that a business that we'd given a conditional use to was violating that conditional use. So to my thinking, she is before a body of the city complaining. She's making a statement that then deserves to be followed up. And we hadn't really, I know that CJ did go and follow that up, but we had no mechanism of really capturing that as part of any report. So what the commission has asked Mr. Stevens to do is to alter that report to include things like that come up in the context of a meeting that address, especially from my perspective, address zoning or conditional use violation complaints or things like that. Because he had already gone and investigated those issues that were brought forward at that meeting, but then we didn't wrap it up anyway. So we've asked him to alter that report. So in the future, you're going to see that either as an other or another comment on there that we're hoping then will wrap up any issues that come forward as part of a meeting. So any questions about that? I just wanted you to kind of know how we were proceeding with trying to address citizen, resident issues and complaints.
We believe that'll help communication a lot, be able to do that. So, another thing we might mention too, concerning Don's department, is Kim Arnett is the one that really put that all together, and she did such a good job, and she's changed that form a few times, and she has really worked well with CJ and Don and Lana and Matt and that whole department. She's just fit into that department like a glove. As you might recall, how many months has she been there now, Don? It's about 6 months? About 6 months, but she is so efficient, and even those reports that we see and those graphs that we see, that's a reflection on her ability. So next time you're in City Hall and you go by the Building Services Department, I just ask that all of you stick your head in and say thank you for doing such a good job, because that means a lot from anyone, but especially from the council or a commissioner recognizing that. And I just want to brag on her a little bit there. She's doing a great job.
Any questions about that, or? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Selena. Well, I've got one announcement. Does anyone else have an announcement?
I have an announcement, Mayor.
Okay, I'll let you go first. Ladies first, please.
Ladies first, thank you. As the museum director, I'd like to announce the opening of 2 new exhibits at the museum. One is a German Nazi Hitler exhibit that has a Mauser in it, hat, money, beer mugs, beer steins, the German beer steins, and a Nazi flag, also the bayonet and some other things that have been given to the museum on loan. Our museum was selected purposely for this exhibit. We've accepted it for a period of time, and we'd like to invite you to come by and see that. These items were actually belonged to Hitler at one time and came from his bunker, as I'm told. So we announced that. We also announced the opening of a new exhibit in what used to be the dining room is now converted into Mr. Tucker's 95th birthday party, reminiscing what he has done over the years for the city of Lowell at the museum. The museum is 37 years old, and Mr. Tucker, of course, started it. And there's some articles and pictures and things of him that would detail that history, and I invite you to come by and see that exhibit also.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you.
What,
Yes, Kendall?
the Nazi memorabilia, who's it on loan from?
Mr. Claypool gave it to us.
Okay. Interesting.
I've even got some stuff on loan in there from World War II,
Several things.
several things.
Not too early to be thinking about the employee appreciation Christmas party. Casey, stand up there just a moment. You got green on, you know, you're already dressed for Christmas, so you need a
Leprechaun.
red bow in your hair. Well, Dean and myself and Casey are having a meeting immediately following tonight's meeting to begin that planning. Any commissioner, any council member would like to participate in that?
So no ice cream tonight?
No.
Are you buying?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. So we just ask if you would like to help with that and get in on the early planning. We're going to have our first meeting tonight. Any other announcement?
I had a question about, I noticed on the code compliance report, there were a lot of reports of the tall grass, and I was just curious on the status of us getting something to the ordinance committee to review
Okay.
on that.
CJ, would you like to come and answer Matt's question, please?
'Cause I think, weren't you all working on an updating the ordinance for that?
Go ahead. Can you ask the question again?
Well, weren't y'all working on a new ordinance to, or some changes to help
New
kind of
procedure.
speed along some of the process of what you can do?
Yes. What we've actually got in place right now is working the new deal. We post placards on the property, whether it be just by a stake in the yard with the position to place the placards on, or there and the door, as in the two that I did so far. And we posted them and got immediate action on one and still nothing on the other. So we moved forward as a city, took control of that property as far as the maintenance thereof and are maintaining it. And unfortunately, there will be a lien, working with Mr. Clicklack on that to follow up, make sure there's a lien placed against that property for the reimbursement back to the city for those services.
Okay. So there aren't any changes that are needed at this point?
I think it's working well as far as I can see.
Okay.
I have a question for you
Yes.
afterwards.
Oh, afterwards, okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you, CJ.
Mayor, one last thing.
Someone else had a question somewhere.
One last thing.
Is that you, Ronnie?
Joe,
You have another
Go
question?
ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Just a short announcement, since Jeanette won't quit whining about it, we'll do ice cream next council meeting, August 20th. August 20th, I'll expect to see some new faces, August 20th. It's the third Tuesday.
Okay.
Mayor, I did have one last thing.
Okay, one last thing.
I'd like to be on your Christmas committee.
Hey, we're having a meeting right afterwards, so you can get in on it, okay?
Miss-
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion by Jeanette
Second.
Lassiter that we adjourn. And have a second to that motion?
Second.
Have a second? Who? Ronnie Breland. Second. No objections, and meeting is adjourned at 7, what is it? 7:40.